Your name is MAGA Prophet. You have Liberal Destroyer in your name. You also have Patriot, Freedom Fighter, Conservative MAGA,
Are
145
you against
IQ,
freedom?
Common Sense Southern Baptist.
Parker, why are you against freedom?
Name one provision that you disagree with that Biden passed.
Just more money for teaching, indoctrinating kids into, woke agenda.
What? Can you tell me what critical race theory is analyzing?
Yeah, it's just basically blaming all the hate on America.
No, it's not. That's not what critical race theory is. To clarify, like the Democrats created COVID.
America. Somebody in the country was in on it. Let me finish, and then I promise you I'll answer your question. I'm just saying, have you seen the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
No.
You never seen that show? Let me go ahead and explain that show. So that show is like a game host show where you answer a series of questions, and then if you don't know,
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
I sure did.
Why'd you do that?
I thought he was a better candidate out of the two, and his first term was pretty successful.
What makes you think he was a better candidate?
I thought he could give the country a better direction than the Kamala Harris and Joe Biden administration did.
Okay. So you say that one more time, sir?
I thought he could give the country a better direction than Biden and Harris did.
How so?
He can rejuvenate American manufacturing.
But did you know manufacturing sector wages are actually lower than service sector wages? Therefore, like if you were going to force more people into manufacturing sector wages comparative to service sector wages, you'd actually like reduce their income and wages. So they're going to hurt quality of life of Americans by forcing people into those jobs.
I mean, I guess it depends what you define as manufacturing, like advanced manufacturing.
Yeah, I'm just talking about typical manufacturing jobs. If you want to reference advanced manufacturing, that's different. But then you would get increases in advanced manufacturing, particularly through like investments, like the Chips and Science Act.
Yeah. But wouldn't that still increase the amount of like total jobs out there? And you would have people pick between if they want to do service or
Actually,
manufacturing.
no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't because it is the case that like the jobs that in America that rely on aspects of the production process that come from countries around the world, plenty of service jobs that rely on that, will now be less profitable in the United States because it is the case that they rely on aspects of the production process that now are more costly, right, because of the tariffs. So it makes
Yeah,
it
but
less
wouldn't would
profitable.
so okay, but wouldn't that cause like what's the term? If more people do buy it, wouldn't that cause an economics of sale or some concept like that where the price will drive down?
No. If more people are demanding the
Economics
price,
of scale. I'm sorry, that's what I mean, not sale.
economies of scale.
Yeah,
That's going
yeah.
to relate to like larger firms, right? I don't see how economies of scale is relative to this.
Um, if say like a manufacturing company um is able to only source from Americans, right? It would cause a price it cause a price increase for the like the more they buy it from the more they
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
the
The more it's
products, right?
demanded, the more. Yeah, but like when you're not taking into account, is plenty of American products rely on global demand, and if they don't have that global demand, the demand for their products goes down.
Okay, so what do you think about China stealing intellectual property and all that stuff, and them not playing by World Trade Organization rules? And
There,
same with countries like Japan too, that undercut U.S. steel and U.S. manufacturing and stuff like that.
you're not going to get them to engage with the international community by pulling out of the international community and by not upholding relationships with our allies. It would be you could put pressure on them, economically speaking, without utilizing tariffs, just by like the international community putting pressure on them to engage with the World Trade Organization or to engage in international affairs, as it's really important that we have international cooperation in order to ensure that we fight against climate change, in order to ensure right a response to like global pandemics in the future, to respond to world problems. We need a world that is willing to cooperate. Because when we do cooperate, we have better outcomes for people.
I mean, I agree, but at the same time, you have countries like China who, if you don't play by their rules, right, you'll lose out on a lot of money, right? So then you have a lot of
That's true
countries
about the
kind of.
United States. So why are you acting in the way in which you critique China for acting?
Well, I mean, I think we have. I mean, I think the United States is more ethical than China, for sure. And I think even you would agree that you want the U.S. vision of the 21st century rather than the Chinese vision of the 21st century.
Not if it's led by Donald Trump.
True. I mean, Trump's going to be here for 4 years. I'm
So,
talking
so
about.
yes, I would prefer in typical United States over the in typical China, right, in terms of being like the global influence. But that doesn't mean that I don't think that we have critiques towards the U.S. system that would make it significantly better, right? And especially in terms of the influence that we're having. And the influence that we're having through the Trump administration is very bad.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. He kind of when he first got elected into office, nobody was really talking about tariffs. We were moving towards
Tariffs are horrible.
really not a lot. Yeah, I mean, true, but we've seen Joe Biden leave tariffs on Chinese solar panels, on Chinese automobiles,
Targeted
right? So you
tariffs,
even
not
have
blanket.
them.
Targeted tariffs, not blanket tariffs. Do you know the distinction?
Yeah, yeah. They target specific industry, traditionally infant industries. But even if you look at normal economic theory or stuff like that, they don't agree with. They look down on targeted tariffs as well, as they often think they're some type of they hinder the free flow of goods, right? Um, so
I don't
and
think. Yeah,
ultimately he
I don't.
proved right
I
on
don't.
that.
I'm not a classical economist.
Okay, I don't really. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an economic, like an economist or like that. But um, so I'm not really sure what that entails. Of I just know a few from like the business classes, a few like concepts from business classes I've taken.
Mm-hmm. So
Um,
here'd be my question, right? If the Atlanta Fed is projecting recession from Trump's policies, why do you support Trump?
I mean, I think a recession wouldn't necessarily be all his fault. He's only been here for 100 days. The tariffs that he put now, I feel like were. I mean, I know you're gonna. They're more like a word negotiating thing um, for 90 days. I think tariffs towards China. I think they're a pretty good idea. Um, I think I think long term, like give it till they've got a majority here. Give it till they pass a budget, more updated tax codes, and I think we'll be getting out of this. I mean, the market was doing very well prior to COVID for Trump. I think you'll continue to see it, even if you see
No,
negative
again,
returns.
you're just yapping at this point. I'm sorry, but like you're not actually like addressing anything I'm saying. And also, you say the market does good because of Trump. Do you not remember what Trump just did recently because of the tariffs? That literally caused the
Yeah,
market to crash, and it wasn't doing well, right?
yeah,
So there's
over
a lot
like
of uncertainty in the market because of what Donald Trump's doing.
yeah, but if you look from January 20th to now, um, the market hasn't really gone like too negative from there. Yeah, in the short
Yes,
term,
it has.
um,
It went down massively, right? What do you remember what just happened recently?
yeah, within the past week it went
Yeah,
down about 7% or 8%.
in a day, not counting the other
Yeah,
days, it's still down. Even though it's gone slightly up recently, it still went down, and that's because of the tariffs, because there's uncertainty in the market.
yeah, and I think once he gets his budget passed, once he fully negotiates with all the trading partners, strengthens our relationships with our allies. I think we'll see a continuous going up like we did in his first term.
1 second, real quick. 1 second. Not a real account. There's no way you're a real account. How old are you?
I'm 18.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
I did, yeah.
What is this account? Please tell me you're not real.
Bro, what problem do you have with it?
Your name is MAGA Prophet. You have Liberal Destroyer in your name. You also have Patriot, Freedom Fighter, Conservative MAGA,
Are
145
you against
IQ,
freedom?
Common Sense Southern Baptist.
Parker, why are you against freedom?
Okay, you're totally trolling.
Not trolling. Can you debate me instead of just insulting me?
That's not an insult for me to say that you're trolling. All right. Can you name a Trump policy that you like?
Yeah, basically, he made America great again.
He made America great again. Okay.
Yes, he did.
Through what policy?
Through the First Step Act.
Now, that's a good policy.
Okay, that's a
I
policy.
agree.
That's a policy supported by both Democrats and Republicans.
And
Not
he
a
passed it.
policy. Not a policy unique to Donald Trump, right? So obviously not one you could say that he supported so far as that he was a better candidate. Try
Wait, but he
again.
signed it into law, though.
That doesn't give him unique responsibility for it, as it is the case that it would have happened either way, and it was already going to be voted on under the Obama administration. And the reason why it didn't get passed is because Republicans wouldn't vote for it when Obama was president.
Okay, so
Can't
then
you
could
say the
you...
same thing about the Infrastructure Act though? Trump was the one to sign the Infrastructure
Well,
Act.
the distinction between that is that literally you can point to behaviors that Joe Biden did that got people to work together within Congress, right, to get an infrastructure bill passed, whereas you can point to certain things that Donald Trump did to restrict that infrastructure bill from getting passed, right,
Hey,
because
wait,
of the
Parker,
differences in
wait.
their willingness
Why,
to
why
be able
did
to
why did
compromise.
Biden have why did Biden have a Democrat Senate, a Democrat House, but he still didn't get anything done?
He did. The bipartisan infrastructure bill, the Chips and Science Act, the PACT Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and also what you're referencing is for 2 years. Trump had the exact same thing and got less done.
Wait, but that's not true though, because he passed the tax cuts, the border bills,
Well, border bill. Name
and
one border bill.
the wall. I know
The
that for a
wall.
fact because it was
How
built.
much of the
Yes,
wall did he build?
a lot of it.
3.7% new wall.
Okay,
That's
wait,
a
but
lot.
how
That's a
many
lot of
acres?
the
How many
wall.
acres? How many acres? How many miles?
52.
You
That's
can
all.
also
That
Trump passed the CARES Act too.
yes, he did.
Um,
Yes, he did.
Can we
that
have
was
him address what I just said? That there was not much wall built. That was not a single policy. That was an
Wait, but
executive
that's
order.
52.
I asked you
That's
for a
52
specific
miles.
policy.
All right, you want a specific policy? I'll give you one. He had higher wages in his administration.
That's
Do
not
you
a
dispute that?
policy, dude. No, he didn't have higher wages. There were
Okay,
higher,
okay, fine. All right, fine.
real median wages were higher under the Biden-Harris administration comparative to the Trump administration.
Wait, I'll tell you. One of his policies that he made was the tariffs against China in 2018. That is a policy.
that was kept under Biden too.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about targeted tariffs. So if it's kept under Biden too, not uniquely to Trump insofar as that you would like Trump. So try again.
How about the CARES Act that Trump
The CARES
passed?
Act,
That
yeah,
was
the
the
CARES Act.
largest,
Okay. Either of you name one provision within the CARES Act that you like.
the
The care
$1,200 stimulus checks.
exactly,
Okay, so
exactly.
$1,200 stimulus check. So you okay? So then here would be my question about that. Do you support the greater level of money stimulus checks that were given by the Biden Harris administration, and do you also agree with the greater level of social services that they were advocating for?
No, because what Biden was giving was bullshit. Like he didn't do anything with that money.
Name one
I mean,
provision.
I agree with the checks from Biden. I'll say that. I think that was I agree with the
That's one
checks.
thing. One thing. That's
Name one
only one
provision
thing.
that you
Yeah.
name one provision that you disagree with that Biden passed.
You know, just more money for teaching, indoctrinating kids into, woke agenda.
What? Can you define woke?
Yeah, woke is basically when you don't respect America, when you want to push like anti, pro-China
Okay.
propaganda.
Can you tell me what policy that Joe Biden supported that pushed pro-China propaganda within schools?
Absolutely, absolutely. The teaching of critical racist theory.
One, there wasn't a specific CRT policy supported by Joe Biden. Two, CRT is taught in colleges, genius. They're not taught in
No,
schools.
it's not.
Yes,
No,
it
it's
is.
not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
CRT is not taught in
What?
elementary schools
Okay,
and in
do you know what critical racist theory is?
critical race theory. Yes.
Racist theory.
Yes. Can you tell me what critical race theory is analyzing?
Yeah, it's just basically blaming all the hate on America.
No, it's not. That's not what critical race theory is.
Yes, it is. Then why do they teach in like critical and
Do you know what critical theory is?
what? Yeah, you tell me. You tell me.
I asked you the question. Do you know
What was it? Critical what?
critical theory?
Critical critical theory is like criticizing a country. Is that what is it then? You tell me.
No, it's going to be about describing, right, how people act, right, or engage in certain types of behaviors. So critical race theory is going to be analyzing the effect that race has on certain types of social behaviors within the context of society and how it could disenfranchise people, discriminate against people on the basis of race's impact on those certain things, especially within the context of how people engage in behavior within society. So that is going
Okay,
to be
but
what critical race theory is. These types of concepts are taught within colleges, right? What you're referencing in terms of CRT within schools is about teaching a broader understanding of history, insofar as that it's not just literally whitewashed
absolutely
history.
not.
Like
Absolutely not.
what you're talking about is literally getting rid of whitewashing of history, and you're like, oh my god, CRT bad. The CRT that you're referencing is literally just limiting whitewashing in history and being like, let's talk about like the perspective of indigenous Americans, right, that have been affected by, right, like
Parker.
the against their people, against the colonization of their land, right, and the continued suppression of them, the forced ethnic cleansing of them into reservations, right? Talk about the perspective of that, or talk about the perspective, right, of like literally of Black Americans in terms of slavery, right, in terms of the Tuskegee Airmen, right, in terms of plenty of things throughout history, Tulsa, Oklahoma, the burning of Black Wall Street. Like these things need to be taught from the perspective, right, of people who are not white cis het men, and that's very important. And when you sit there and you act like, oh, it's such a horrible thing to teach from any other perspective other than a white man, what you're telling me is you don't care about anyone in America that does not meet those particular characteristics, which is at this point most of America. You don't care about most of America. You care about the idea of America that has
That's
been
a not wait.
perpetuated
What
by
you're
literal white
describing
slave owners that engaged in patriarchy, misogyny, and racism to control people that do not look like them, act like them, and behave like them within every single manner.
what you're describing is like I'm not against it, but what the critical racist theory that I have seen when back in high school was basically just blaming hate on like the people who founded this nation. Like that, I think is extremely wrong.
Wait, really? Like, you don't think we should blame slave owners for owning slaves?
No, no, I think slavery was a bad thing.
Okay, so like
It,
people who owned slaves, like George Washington, like Thomas Jefferson, should we hold them
but they
accountable for
founded our
being slave
country.
owners?
But they founded our country.
So,
Yeah,
No, I mean,
look, look.
I'll say I think they're
so
bad. I think they're bad. I think Thomas Jefferson was
exactly.
a great too.
Yeah, like they're horrible
No, I'm not
people, and
I'm not disputing that.
we should not be looking up to horrible people. That's all we're saying.
I'm not disputing that. I don't dispute that, those claims are false. However, believe that when you're blaming, like when you're 100% blaming everything on like the people that found this country for like,
Here's what it is. You're straw manning critical race theory. That's what you're doing.
how am I strawmanning it?
Because you're saying that critical race theory entails that you blame everything in society on just like white men. That's essentially what you're trying to say. And no, that's not how intersectional feminism works. No, that's not how intersectionalism works. We are
No,
going to
I support
acknowledge
women. I support women.
what
I truly
you
support
voted
women.
for a grandest who literally bragged about walking into the changing rooms of girls in Miss
Look,
USA because he couldn't
look,
wasn't supposed to
Parker.
inspect them without their consent, that restricted women's access to abortion and their basic rights to bodily autonomy. Right? What do you mean you care about women?
You have to understand. Like, I have a mother, okay? I have a
Shut.
sister.
You're trolling. This is totally trolling.
I'm not trolling. Can you
I have
please
a
just take
mom
me
and
seriously?
I have a mom is not a
No,
reason why
listen,
you don't
listen,
hate
listen.
women.
Hey,
Everyone
hey,
has a
listen.
mom, bro. What are you talking about?
Okay, okay, okay. I have a mother, okay? I
Practically
respect my
everyone has a
mother.
mom.
When I voted for President Trump, I voted for him for the economy, for our country, for our trade, for our immigration, for our security. That is all those things, fall under, caring about women. Like, for instance, I don't want my mom to be unalived by a illegal immigrant. I don't want my mom to
Okay, well,
be un
I just want to let you know undocumented immigrants commit violent crime, drug crime, and property crime at multiple times lower rates than
Really,
natural born,
really, is that true?
at multiple times lower rates than natural born U.S. citizens. You can find this from pnas.org. Look up the comparative rates of violent crime, drug crime, and property crime between U.S. citizens, U.S. born citizens, and undocumented immigrants in Texas. And it will tell you explicitly that undocumented immigrants commit multiple times lower rates of crime. We can also look at the Cato Institute. We can look at practically any source that indicates lower rates of crime from undocumented immigrants. We can also look at how they're adding more to the economy than they're taking from it. Undocumented immigrants spend literally $100 billion in taxes to federal, local, and state governments, whereas they receive none of that in federal benefits. Literally none of that. So again, they provide the system, they don't take from, right? And it is the case that they commit lower rates of crime, and yet you're going to sit here and act like they're the ones committing crimes or violent crimes at high rates when you voted for someone who's literally a violent offender who was held civilly liable of a woman who released violent criminals in the country that beat cops and pled guilty and admitted to it and were convicted of it in a criminal court.
Parker, you have to understand that these illegal immigrants, they are getting benefits. Like I have seen on the streets here in, Orange County, where these illegal immigrants will walk into a hotel and say, "Can I get a room?" And the cashier will say, "Yeah, you can." Like, you think that's fine?
Okay,
I mean,
I have
I'm
been
not
to I
from
have been to Orange County. That is totally f***ing bullshit. What are you
What?
talking about? Orange
I
County is
literally
like the
saw
most
the other day.
Orange County is the most conservative area possible. What are you talking about?
Oh no,
One,
you
it's the
haven't
most
been here.
Yes, I
You
have.
haven't been here.
Yes,
You
I
haven't
have.
been here
One,
20 years.
one,
In 20
two,
years.
two, two. I just want to say this. You can't tell that someone's undocumented just by looking at them. Three, right? If you're talking about asylum seekers, they're going through a legal process. But dude,
Parker,
I
I'm
mean,
telling you,
I got
Orange County
Parker,
is
I
very
just want
right
Parker.
wing.
Wait,
I
wait,
got I got
Parker.
two things
Wait,
to
wait, wait,
add
wait. Give me
real
1 second.
quick.
Wait, give me
Wait,
one
let me
second.
let me let
Wait,
me
wait.
say
Can I
this.
ask you a question? Can you name one beach in Orange County?
Yes, Huntington Beach.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you been to Huntington Beach? Have you been to the pier? They literally have
Oh
Trump
yeah, I've
rallies
been
at
there.
the
Yeah, yeah,
pier.
yeah.
They have Trump rallies at
No,
the
wait,
pier.
Parker, let me add something. You're not letting me talk. Well, I've been to Orange County for the last, 10 years or so. It went red against Obama in 2008 and 2012, and it went blue for Hillary Clinton and blue for Biden and blue again for Kamala. So you can't sit here and say that it's a
That is bull.
conservative.
No,
That
it's
is true. Look
not.
it up. Look it up right now. Look
I
it up
will.
right now. You
I
Isn't
can.
will.
isn't
Hey,
Kevin
go.
McCarthy from
I have been there. There's not.
Yes,
No, it's totally right
I don't
wing.
dispute that. I don't dispute that you've been here, but you have to understand that we it's been getting more blue over the years, especially with when they're literally teaching woke propaganda in
They're
Huntington Beach
teaching woke
schools.
propaganda. No, they're not. What
Yes.
woke
Oh
propaganda
my
are
God.
you talking about?
You've never been here for the last like 10 years. You don't
Yes, I
understand this
have.
county.
Yes, I have. I live in
Okay,
California,
name me one city. Name me one city in
in
Orange County besides Huntington.
Irvine. This claim here that you're making that like it's not conservative is ridiculous. You can look at voter registration in the area. Secondly, also, right, like not only that, but like that's just completely not acknowledging the claim that like undocumented immigrants don't get federal services.
Yeah,
They
well, I want
absolutely
that's the
do.
one I wanted to address real quick. They get federal services in Medicare, and a lot of most states give them Medicaid, and most states give them in-state college
Absolutely.
tuition, which
Absolutely.
gets subsidized by the
No, wrong.
federal government.
It
So California
absolutely
does
is.
offer
Can you give
in-state
me a, can you
tuition
give
for
me can you
undocumented
give
immigrants.
me a single source
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for Medicaid?
I feel like you're just ignoring the fact that here in I live in Westminster, and so the crime rate has just been out of control ever since like Biden let in all these illegals. I don't understand how you could just like sit here and just say that we
I got
haven't been
PBS
suffering.
One,
News.
you shouldn't refer to people as illegals. Two, I have a question. Are you okay with population growth being 1 to 2% a year?
If the crime rate is going up, then yeah,
Undocumented immigrants, bringing more undocumented immigrants to the country would reduce crime
how would it reduce crime?
because the crime rate would be lower because there's a greater population with a lower rate of crime.
Don't they
I just find
automatically
that hard to
commit a
believe.
crime by entering
No, because
illegally?
again, undocumented immigrants have multiple times lower rates of crime.
Yeah, for the Medicaid scores, I got PBS News. Hold on, let me read.
Yeah, go. You give me the title.
How undocumented immigrants sometimes
What?
receive Medicaid
Repeat the
benefits.
title.
How undocumented immigrants sometimes receive Medicaid benefits. And Medicaid is a federal program that gets funded by federal block grants given to the states who decide what to do with the money.
All
And
right.
the Department of Education subsidizes, gives.
Where does it say within it?
They're talking about the hospital reimbursement rate. How undocumented immigrants get go to the hospital. They have to get treated in Medicaid, reimburse the hospitals.
You're talking about these. You're referencing states doing states spending money for care of people. That's not necessarily undocumented immigrants. This is just emergency Medicaid.
Yeah, but Medicaid's still a federal program.
Listen, illegal immigrants who have been in the United States for less than 5 years aren't eligible for regular Medicaid coverage.
But that doesn't. That still
Those
proves
are
the point
legal.
that
Those are legal immigrants.
Parker, I said
That's
I
what.
thought you
That's what your
said
own
we
source
shouldn't say
says.
illegal.
I said legal immigrants.
All right, fine, fine, fine.
What?
I thought you said illegal. My apologies.
I said you shouldn't call people illegals.
I know when I thought you said illegal, and so I was applying your standard back to you.
Even if I did say illegal immigrant, that's different from calling someone an illegal.
All right, fine, fine.
You got anything else, or
I mean, the Department of Education subsidizes tuition.
say that one more time?
Federal government subsidizes tuition for colleges.
For undocumented immigrants?
Yeah.
Give me a source on that one. Got anything? Or are you done?
I mean, I found that they do pay in-state tuition. I don't know if it comes from the. I couldn't find that it came subsidized from the federal government.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but I gotta drop. It was nice talking to you, Parker. I'm glad we had a respectful conversation.
Nice talking to you. Too.
Um,
Yeah. So liberal destroyer, you didn't destroy anything. You got
Did
destroyed
destroy
over and
you.
over and over
No,
again on
I
this live.
didn't. Why are you saying that?
You're
I
mad,
didn't.
bro.
I'm not. Can you please just like talk to me about tariffs? Literally, I have 100% knowledge on all these issues,
A
and I
hundred,
feel like
100% knowledge. What is a tariff?
yeah. So a tariff is a tax on an importer.
A tax on an imported good. Okay. Who pays the tariff?
Well, the importer.
Okay. In the importing business. Okay. So that's passed on to the consumer, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
incentivizes people to buy American goods. That is the point.
So why do you have to? I thought you're pro freedom. Why do you have to force people to buy American goods instead of just telling them to do it?
Well, I'm pro freedom for Americans.
Yeah, that you're limiting the freedom of Americans to buy goods from other countries around the world
No, I'm
when you
not.
make it more
They can still
expensive.
buy the goods from China.
No, you're forcing them to buy American goods by making it more expensive to buy goods from other countries around the world.
No, I'm not forcing
You
anyone.
are totally
They can still
forcing
buy
them in the
it.
market.
They can
Okay,
still
For
do it.
example, if we put a tariff right on, like a 1,000% tariff on like podcast mics, would you be like limiting that? Would you be limiting people's
Um,
freedom to buy podcast mics?
it would incentivize them to buy the cheaper ones in some cases.
So are you forcing them to buy podcast mics from the United States? Because it's 1,000%.
Well, can we please switch up the terms because the word force is not
I'm gonna
really.
throw my head through a wall.
Parker, I don't want you to do that. Please don't do that.
Then stop
But
being like this.
yes, sir. Okay. When you tax the importer, right? The Chinese good becomes more, or sorry, I shouldn't say that. Foreign good becomes more expensive, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the American consumer buys the cheaper good, which is the American good, making, investment go into
You know what's up?
America.
How old are you?
43.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
Yes, I did.
Why'd you do that?
Let me go ahead and ask you a question, Parker.
Go ahead.
So I've watched you and Dean and your group, campaigning throughout this whole time.
Yeah.
So, like when you guys are campaigning, haven't you guys noticed that you guys have been wrong every single time? Like, I'm just asking, like, basically, like, everything you guys have fight for, you guys have been wrong. Donald Trump is president. And then when you talk about limiting people's freedom, you're talking about the Democrats. When you're talking about tariffs of limiting people's freedom, Democrats censors us. Democrats takes away the freedom. I mean, let's not even talk about policies or anything. Let's talk about common sense here, right? Common sense is everybody knows why these tariffs are put into place. Yes, we know that the consumer price, they have to deal with it. We know that. We understand that. But I know you know this, Parker. Donald Trump is doing this tariffs is to put people on the table to negotiate. You know that better than I do. And yes, it sucks
Absolutely.
that the world has to get hit like right now because of it. I understand. It's painful. People's feeling it. But it is for the greater good. Do you agree that it's for the greater good if it does work out?
If it works out in a manner in which it would reduce tariffs overall, then yes, but that would actually go against his fundamental values of wanting to increase domestic production, because there's no increase in domestic production if there is an overall decrease in tariffs. You also said I'm always wrong. I'd like you to give me specific examples in which I'm wrong. And then also,
Okay.
in terms of the Dems censoring, Donald Trump advocated to put people in prison for a year for burning the American flag.
So you want to talk about Donald Trump wearing an American flag, but Dr. Fauci, Fauci, Nancy Pelosi, they've done worse, but nobody wants to talk about it. But
Like
we're
what?
not there.
Absolutely.
But we're not there to
Absolutely.
talk about that, Parker.
What has Fauci done?
No, the whole common sense about this. Oh, have you seen the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
What did Fauci do that was wrong?
No, but first, let me ask you: have
No,
you seen the show
wait.
Who
You're the
Wants
one that
to Be a
doesn't want to
Millionaire?
talk about it.
No,
Oh,
Parker,
we're
let me
talking about.
finish.
I'm asking you about it right now, and you're not
What,
responding.
what
So
I'm
what
trying to
did
say.
Fauci do?
Did you hear what I just said, Parker?
What did
Let me
Fauci
finish.
do?
Let me finish, and then I promise you I'll answer your question. I'm just saying, have you seen the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
No.
You never seen that show? Let me go ahead and explain the show. So that show is like a game host show where you answer a series of questions, and then if you don't know the question, you ask the audience, right? And then the audience comes back as 91%. And normally when you come back to the audience at 91%, they're usually right with the answer. So the way I look at it, that's how Democrats are. You guys already lost. And instead of uniting this country and respecting the president, the person that's in place, you guys don't know that you're actually hurting America because you guys are, I don't really truly understand your debate right now, to be honest with you. And to answer your question about what has Dr. Fauci done, everybody know what that guy has done. Have you not heard his recording? This guy and his COVID and everything, and don't sit there and defend him. Please don't defend him because you're gonna make yourself look really bad, Parker. And you know that the whole world knows and don't like Dr. Fauci. You know
What did he do?
the COVID, bro. What are you talking
What
about?
about
Did you
it?
hear what he said? This fool said, to how do you get rid of everybody's ideology? How do you get rid of that? Do you know what he said? By forcing them to take the vaccine, pretty much crippling us and saying you have to go to work. All the Facebook, all the big industries, you force them to do this. You force them to do like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not as bright as you,
What did
Parker.
Fauci do? You still have yet to
No,
say.
Parker. But what I'm trying to say is I'm not as bright as you. I don't know the policies like you guys all
I'm
know.
not
I
even
just have.
asking for a pulse. I'm just asking
But what I'm just
what
trying.
did
No, but
Fauci
what
do
I'm
that was
just trying to
about?
say is that you're a very
You said
intelligent
Fauci was
kid.
so horrible. What did Fauci do? No one
I just
forced you to
told.
take the vaccine.
You're right, but your employers did. The
No, no,
employers
you
did.
didn't.
Employers are, bro. I own a company of 500 employees. I was forced
No,
to
you
shut
weren't.
down. Yes, I was.
No,
How are
you
you
weren't.
going to tell me, Parker? You don't own a company. I do. So what I'm just trying to.
I'll explain why.
No, no, but let me finish. I got shut down because I'm not a necessity.
Let me
My
explain.
business was not a necessity.
You just
I
didn't
couldn't
listen.
work.
Yeah,
No,
hold
but I
on.
can't work from home either.
Wait, you're talking about in terms of the vaccine mandate, right? It was vaccine or test, right? And it got shot down by the Supreme Court.
Not at the time when I had to shut my company down.
Okay, that happened under Trump's administration. And that wasn't just Fauci. That was under Trump's administration where there were literally Republicans supporting that policy. It was a lockdown because there was a global pandemic, dude. I'm sorry, like what? No the store shut down. There was a global pandemic killing millions of people.
And then where did you think the pandemic came from, Parker?
China.
Hmm?
China.
Is that what you really, really think in your heart? Because
Yeah.
you did your Google research. So bottom line is what I'm trying to say about you, Parker. You're very smart. You're intelligent. But what I'm saying, Sometimes, brother, you gotta use your common sense too. Not everything we read online and everything that we think we understand everything. It's just common sense.
Where did the virus come from?
Like go with your gut feeling sometimes on this. I know you know it, Parker. I know you know in your heart that the Democrat aren't the most honest people either. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
never said Democrats were totally 100% honest. They're more honest than Republicans and definitely more honest than Donald Trump. But I asked you, where did the virus come from?
you're probably gonna say Wuhan, right?
I asked you the question.
I'm giving you the answer. Wuhan, the China lab in China.
You agree that it was from Wuhan?
That's what I Googled, bro. That's what I Googled. I'm just using my gut feeling on things. What I'm trying to tell you.
What's your gut
So,
feeling?
what I like to educate myself. I think that it's the Democrats, bro. I think that's just me. That's just me. I'm thinking it's our country, right?
So,
'Cause our country does-
Democrats created COVID?
So our country does a lot of messed up things. You know that. I know that. I think everybody knows that. The bottom line,
To clarify, like the Democrats created COVID.
America. Somebody in the country was in on it.
So
I believe
so
that.
it wasn't Democrats.
I would say our country. Let's go there. Our country. Our people.
Who was
Our
president?
citizens. What?
Who was president?
Bro, you're not getting it.
So
President
our country under whose leadership?
So let me ask you this, Parker. Under a person's leadership, do you expect that leadership to be 100% perfect? Like something mistake is not going to pass that person? Again,
No,
common
but I'm
sense.
just saying, how do you blame it on Democrats if it was under Trump's leadership?
Did you just hear what I just said? I said I fixed it. It's our country's fault, not Democrats, not Republicans.
Okay,
It's
so
just our
the
country.
United States created COVID.
Not created. They knew about it. Everybody's in on something about. That's just my conspiracy theory, right?
Wait, did I create COVID because I knew about it in February?
Parker, are we gonna talk about stuff, or are you gonna sit there and try to be smart about things? Really, because that's how you really do talk to people. Like, don't be smart. We're both people. We're just talking.
Don't be
We're
smart.
not. No, we're not trying
Am I
to dumb
supposed
each
to be
other
dumb?
down. No, not be a smart ass. Not be a smart
How
ass.
so? You mean like correct you when you say something wrong?
Not
I'm sorry.
correct me.
We're on a debate live. I'm gonna respond to you. If you don't want me to respond to you, don't join a debate live. Simple.
It's not. You're not really debating me. You're only questioning my if I'm smart or not. The way you talk to a person, I'm
That's
pretty
not
sure.
what
it
I
needs to
did.
say
I
that.
didn't just do that. I responded to all your points.
So what do you think about the tariffs then, Parker?
What do I think? I think the tariffs hurt Americans.
No, I'm talking about the tariffs. Do you agree with the tariffs, or you don't? You probably don't, right?
Not the universal ones. I disagree with the universal tariffs.
And what do you think about China?
What do I? Okay, is this an interview or are we like debating?
No, it's debating, Parker. Like, I respect your panel, bro. I just wanted to really get on here and talk to you because, I've been waiting for this. Wish I can talk to Dean one of these days, too. I don't come at you guys because I'm smart, because I'm knowledgeable. I just come from, just an American citizen who tries to have some kind of common sense because I don't let
Can I
my
ask you
stuff
something
get
that's common
brainwashed.
sense, real quick?
Yeah,
Would you vote for someone who released violent criminals into the country?
release.
Yeah, like intentionally released violent criminals into the country.
You're talking about pardons, right?
Yeah, that could be an example.
Right. And let me ask you this quick. What president hasn't done that?
Joe Biden.
You're not serious when you say that, right? I hope you're not serious when you say that Joe Biden does not pardon anybody, right?
Joe Biden did not pardon violent criminals. I'm talking about violent criminals. So can you give me the violent?
No.
Can
Let's
you
not
tell me
talk
the
about
name of the violent
Parker,
criminal that Joe
let's not
Biden
talk
pardoned?
about violent criminals. We're just talking about criminals. Doesn't matter if it's violent or not. It's criminals. It's criminals.
So would
Absolutely.
you vote for a criminal?
Mm, a person can change. Yeah, I can actually.
Would you vote for a violent criminal?
Donald Trump is not violent.
Is there a difference between a violent criminal and any other type of criminal that's relevant?
I mean, like I just told you before, a criminal. I just told you that I would vote for a criminal, right? Because I've been in jail
So
before.
then you would vote for a violent criminal too, right?
I believe in second chances.
Would you vote for someone who's a woman?
Do you have proof of that?
Yes. But
You actually
I just
don't.
asked, would you vote for someone who's a woman?
No.
Would you vote for someone held civilly liable for a woman?
No.
Donald Trump was held civilly liable for Jean Carroll. unanimously amongst a jury of 9 people. So given your own position, you wouldn't have voted for Donald Trump. So you must regret your vote for Donald Trump, correct?
No, I don't. So now let me go ahead and reverse that question on you.
That was a contradiction.
Would you vote for a person who allows, not even Biden, Trump? We're talking about Trump, what he did, but let's go ahead and talk about what Biden did. Would you vote for a president who's actually allowed every single goddamn gangsters, every country, every person to come into America illegally?
Given that it was unintentional, then I would still vote for them. Yeah.
You open the borders.
Yeah, like let
Targets
me
be
let me give an example. For Donald Trump actually has been deporting people at a lower rate compared to the Biden-Harris administration that was violent criminals.
He's been detaining more.
Like you have no evidence that Donald Trump is deporting more or arresting more violent criminals. And Donald Trump himself released violent criminals in the country intentionally.
Yeah, Parker, but so let me go read back my background story. So, I've gotten in trouble in my life a lot. I'm a felon, got in trouble. So that's why I told you I believe in second chances. If everyone's gonna judge me for my past, like what is the reason for second chances, right? What is the reason why people would, go to God, pray to Jesus, whatever it means?
Do you want other people who were felons to be president?
I mean, how many felons is on the Democratic side?
Name one.
I could, bro, they should be felons. How about that?
Okay. Name one felon on the Democratic side.
Nancy Pelosi.
Not a felon.
He's a criminal.
Not even considered a criminal currently.
So
Wait,
Parker,
but doesn't
let
she
me
trade
ask you-
individual stock?
Okay, if you
Parker.
consider her a criminal and you wouldn't vote for her because she's a criminal, well, then Donald Trump is considered a criminal. Secondly, I would support getting rid of the ability for Congress members to invest in anything other than the S&P 500.
Okay, let's just say I agree with you, Parker. Now let me ask you this next question. When you see Nancy Pelosi and all these, just because they didn't get convicted, just because nothing's happening to them, are you only gonna go with something that is actually done, or are you gonna go with instinct and you know that person is a bad person? So let me ask you this next question: If you knew that Nancy Pelosi was a bad person or whatever it was, but she never got in trouble, never got caught up, would you get with her? Let's just pretend that she was a young, beautiful. Like, would you get with a person knowing?
I'm
What-
not gonna get with anyone who's not my girlfriend. So I would never even answer a hypothetical like that. It's just weird to ask me like that.
Okay,
Especially
fine.
when I'm on my girlfriend's account, bro.
Okay, my bad. But forget the fact that it's a girlfriend, right?
I'm not
You
gonna
know-
forget my girlfriend. That's just not how I do things. So, would I support
I
a
didn't say forget
candidate?
your girlfriend.
Would I
I
ever
said
support
forget-
a candidate like Nancy Pelosi? No.
She's
Would
a
you-
criminal.
So if I wouldn't support her as a candidate, why would you support Trump? Because I would so much rather support Nancy Pelosi over Donald Trump.
Because Trump has better policies. That's
Really?
the reason
Name
why.
one single Donald Trump policy that you like.
I told you the tax cuts.
Donald Trump supported the largest tax increase in U.S. history. The tariffs are
What?
the largest
No.
tax increase in U.S. history. Secondly, the tax cuts here that you're talking about predominantly went to rich people.
That is
Which
insane. That is
increased the debt, which
insane.
increased the
Okay.
deficit, which harms American consumers.
Over the last 4 years, we've had higher taxes under the Biden administration.
Mm-hmm. The
And
taxes
because of that,
you would never vote for that tax plan, right?
Liberal.
I would
hold on.
never. No.
You would never. Well, that was Donald Trump's tax plan.
No, what?
Yeah, it
No,
was.
it
That was Donald Trump's tax plan, and you just said the
liberal.
taxes were too high. You
I'm
just
not
said
liberal.
you would never
I'm not
vote
liberal.
for that tax plan, and it was
Liberal
Donald
destroyer.
Trump's tax plan that you just said you would never vote for. So it's hilarious that you say that
It was
because it was literally
under
Donald
Biden.
Trump's plan.
Under Biden, he had terrible tax laws, and because
That
of
was
that,
Donald Trump's tax policy.
No, wait, no.
There was no Joe Biden tax plan.
Okay, then
It
where's
was
the
only
tax
for
plan?
1 year. It was only 1 year
No,
that they
no.
changed it. It was the
Yes.
American Rescue Plan, and the thing that they mainly changed was the child tax credit, which they increased, which reduced child to poverty by 45%.
No,
Parker.
it did not.
It was a COVID era policy. Yes, it did.
But anyways, so Parker, again, what I'm just trying to explain to you, brother, like this is just like a healthy debate. Remember that one episode? Remember that one time when she was campaigning Kamala Harris? Kamala. Remember that one time when she goes, "Well, we're just gonna have to tax more. We're just gonna have to tax more."
Yes.
Donald Trump's never said that, bro.
Yeah, we have to tax people who are rich more. And yes, Donald Trump has. He's talked about tariffs.
The tariff Listen very closely. A tariff is a tax on China or Russia, or sorry, I should say the C country, or Russia, or Taiwan, or Vietnam, or the
So I just
Philippines.
want to clarify. You just said a tariff is not a tax, and then clarified that it is a tax, and then you also got it wrong on who is taxed. Who's
Sorry, it's a
taxed
tax.
is the
It's not a
American
tax on the
importer.
American people.
It is. It's a tax on the American importer, which is passed down to the American consumer.
President Trump said in his inauguration speech, he said, "We need to stop taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, but we need to tax countries to enrich our citizens."
We're not taxing those countries. We're taxing our American businesses, which is passed down to the American consumer. You are not taxing China when you place a tariff on China. You are not taxing Canada when you place a tariff on Canada. That's not how
Wait, why do you even
tariffs
support
work.
taxes?
The,
Why do you even support taxes in the first place?
because we need things to fund social programs.
If I work really hard, why should I get taxed?
I'll give you an example. Would you be okay with taxing 1% of Jeff Bezos' net worth to be able to get rid of homelessness for veterans in America?
I think we can do it without taxes.
No, if it was the case that, again, if you do not tax them, then there will be homelessness for veterans in America.
But that's a hypothetical, though.
But if you do tax them 1%, and it will get rid of homelessness for veterans in America, would you be okay with taxing Jeff Bezos' net worth 1% to get rid of homelessness for veterans in this country?
We can achieve that without, having to
Answer my question.
punish
So no,
hard work.
is that a no?
We can achieve it without taxing. That is
Is that a no?
your question
You would
express.
not be okay with increasing taxes, right, on Jeff Bezos, his net worth by 1% to get rid of homelessness for veterans in this country.
Just said that we can do it without
I'm asking
taxing.
how.
Right. I just wait. I literally just explained this earlier. When you tax other countries, you can help like veterans, homeless people.
Tariffs are not
Just
taxing other countries. Okay, that's one.
but
Two,
why did President Trump say in his speech?
because he's lying to you. The
He's
fact that
he's
you laugh at that is really comical because it's not just me. It's liberal, it's conservative economists that say this. Conservative economists are the ones
give me
saying that
one
he's lying.
conservative economist that says that.
Yeah, Milton Friedman,
Who is Milton Friedman? Let me search this guy.
one of the
Who is this?
most notable like libertarian economists, classical economists that said tariffs cause the prices of consumer products to go up. Actually,
Milton Friedman. Wait, he died. He can't
I
even.
understand.
He's not even.
Listen, I understand. This is where I learned from in terms of Milton Friedman where tariffs increase prices. I know that Milton Friedman is not alive anymore, but he 100% said that tariffs increase prices because that's where I learned it from in school.
Okay, so is he a capitalist? Is Milton Friedman a capitalist?
Yes.
So that means he wouldn't even support tariffs because it's a tread or infringement on, our freedom to make money in this country, businesses.
Hmm.
So I don't know where this
I
whole.
gave you an example of a conservative economist
All
that
right,
says
okay,
that.
fine. Are you sure what they're saying is, 100%?
Yes. That's accurate. It's not. It's literally not just said by them. It's said by like practically every conservative economist. You can look this up yourself, right? There are conservative economists that have gone on plenty of the media sites and talked about how they disagree with this policy. This is typically not even right like a disputed thing. Okay, this is only Donald Trump saying this. He's literally lying to the American people, and I know you don't want to believe that he's lying, but I promise you, if you did some ounce of research, you would determine that he's lying. And this is not coming from someone that just wants to
He's not
disagree
lying,
with Donald
Parker.
Trump. Listen, this is not someone just who wants to disagree with Donald Trump in every scenario. I used to be a Trump supporter. I used to believe some of the same propaganda that you believe in, and I've done research on it, and it's not true.